Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have King Tut's cursed artifacts. We will kick off this list in the 18th dynasty. 1332 BC, King Tut was the last of his royal family to rule, and for ages now the pharaoh's treasures, politics, and social status have remained a mystery. Until recent days, it would be extremely hard to get a glimpse at some of the ancient belongings once owned by King Tut, but the new Grand Egyptian Museum has a solution. It was set to open in 2018, then finally come 2021, it did. Now, that's great, that's quite the exhibit, but the contents displayed inside certainly aren't for the faint of heart. For the first time in history, King Tut's ancient belongings, the artifacts discovered with him, will be on display. Prior to the museum being open, we only saw 150 artifacts from his tomb. They took all of the pieces on tour, but now this museum will house thousands of artifacts, the final resting place for King Tut's collection. That's over 7,000 square meters, what a display. Now when we look back to ancient tombs, we can find many ancient curses. If you have a chance to visit the Grand Egyptian Museum, or if you saw this King Tut world tour, I'm jealous, but please don't touch anything. Just leave ancient artifacts alone, perhaps. The curses belong in history. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Tower of London. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying it. It does really help us out. I have been here myself. I did a little tour, took some pics. I had no idea how dark the history was here. Kings were beheaded. Queens were horribly beheaded. And on top of the already existing dark history, witnesses also say they've seen an apparition in the Tower of London. A headless ghost maybe floating around like it's Hogwarts. How jarring is that? Hopefully no one's, just taking their head off to say good day. A common sighting is that of Thomas Becket, a martyred saint, and Anne Boleyn. If you visit the Tower of London, you might catch a glimpse of the second wife of King Henry VIII. Anne Boleyn was found guilty of treason. She had been charged with having sexual relationships with 5 others, including Lord Rochford, aka her brother, George Boleyn. She had also apparently had relations with Sir Henry Norris, the king's groom of the stool, and on top of all of this, Anne was also found guilty of conspiring to kill her husband. Now it's since been proven that all of these claims were a bunch of rubbish. Anne wasn't even around when all of these things took place. She was still recovering from the birth of her daughter, future Elizabeth I, in October 1533. So there's no way she was fooling around with the groom of the stool. She was kind of busy. All parties involved were executed on Tower Hill in May 1536. Then 2 days later, Anne Boleyn was executed for her crimes. That didn't happen. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Terracotta Army. My least favorite mummy movie, but it's still a good time. Welcome back to Hollywood, Brendan Fraser. Let's go! The tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, is an unbelievable discovery. In this tomb, we can find 6,000 statues, but they all have unique carvings on their face, as if to suggest these are custom statues accurately representing a soldier. All 6,000. Back in 1974, farmers were digging a well. This was 20 miles east of Xin'an, and they stumbled upon a pit that helped all of this history. We believe that around 700,000 workers were putting together this masterpiece for 3 decades. Archaeologists have discovered 8,000 statues in total, with horses and chariots, the emperor's tomb of course. A grim detail here is that in the emperor's tomb, streams of mercury were put around the floor of his burial chamber, and in 2005 over 4,000 samples tested positive for mercury, so to this day less than 1% of the tomb has been excavated. It's simply just too dangerous. The emperor believed that after he had passed, he would have to face the spirits of his enemies, so he wanted to be prepared, even after death. The emperor decided to close the tomb before the workers even had a chance to get out. He was worried that his enemies had found out, so there was lots of statues and dark histories in this one.
Number 7. A strange resting place. Ancient burial grounds. Okay, these tombs, they come in many different shapes and sizes. Some can be these massive Great Pyramids, and others can be a shallow cave system. Sometimes there's ancient history right below your feet, and you'd never know. In St. Augustine, for example, the remains of a donkey were found buried underground, and judging from the skull and the bones and the placement, something was afoot here. It had clearly been hunted down by humans and placed there purposefully. That's not the mysterious part at all. The mysterious part is that all the bones have been carefully separated, and there's no marks to suggest that any tools were used. So researchers believe that this thing wasn't even used for food. So what was it? The limbs were placed to point north and south. That's it. They used this donkey as a compass. How rude is that? What? Donkeys in that area of Florida in the 17th century, that's not bizarre at all. But the way the bones were buried, North and south, that's very odd. That's very Game of Thronesy. Know what I'm saying? What's the message here? What's the point? What's the point? Besides north and south, of course. Number 6, Tortoise Tomb. Okay, somebody called Mario. We got a lot of shells to explain. Okay, pal? Back in 2005 in northern Israel, a tomb of a shaman, who we believe was a 45-year-old woman at the time of her passing, was found in a cave. It was a cave/tomb. Like I said, many different shapes and sizes. There were 28 other skeletons as well, and it appears they had a 6-stage burial. There were beautiful decorations to suggest such, but something that really stood out here were the 86 tortoise bodies discovered in the corner of the tomb. What was going on here? What did we miss? I have FOMO, but I'm not sure why. Was this an ancient feast or a long-lost sacrifice? Either way, poor guys. Number 5. The Sitting Man. Okay, of all the tombs to find, this one would be the most horrifying. This would be so jarring to stumble across, okay? Buckle up. Back in 2005, researchers found a Mayan tomb in Honduras from the 5th century, okay? It's a long time ago. And the body inside was not lying down. It wasn't a pile of bones pointing east or west this time. Rather, it was in a chair, sitting up, like a villain from Zelda. How scary would that be? I mean, it's beautiful, but that's jarring to stumble across. You know what I mean? Whoever was the first person to look and see that, brave soul, that's all I'm saying. The body found, it appears to be an elite member of the Mayan Empire. He passed away, we think, around 650 AD. Yeah, the guy gets propped up in a chair. That's awesome. His legs were crossed and he was rocking jade jewelry. This was very royal. And the tomb itself was actually upright as well. It's common fear to be buried alive, but in this case, you'd have plenty of room. You'd be like, oh, we're good. These types of tombs are actually quite rare to find, but the fact that this one is also in great condition and there's somebody sitting cross-legged inside, double rare. Here we go.
In our number 3 spot today, we have Huska Castle. According to folklore, Huska Castle, which is located in the north of Prague in the Czech Republic, is built over a bottomless hole that leads directly to hell. The legends claim that the 13th century King Ottokar II offered a pardon to any prisoner who agreed to be lowered into the pit in order to report what was down there. The first prisoner who was lowered into the pit only lasted 30 seconds before he started screaming in fear. Sounds pretty horrible. No way I'd volunteer as tribute. Legend goes that when he was brought back up, his hair had turned white, and apparently he saw these half-human, half-demon creatures that flew through the darkness with scaly wings. The castle was built over the hole without things like a water source or any kitchens, and it is said that this was because it wasn't actually meant to be used by humans, but rather a place to capture the demons should they choose to rise from this mysterious hole. Even demons have a place to crash now. How nice is that? In our number 2 spot today, we have the Turkey Gladiator Arena. Ah yes, another arena, another staple in history filled with gruesome combat in the name of entertainment. Gladiator 2 was confirmed by director Ridley Scott, so who knows, there's a chance we may see another Gladiator arena like this one in the sequel. An 1800-year-old arena was discovered back in 2020 while we were all stuck inside watching Carol Baskin. They found another Gladiator arena. This is so exciting on one hand, but the history that lies here, not so pleasant. Its purpose was thought to be the same as the Colosseum, to host these massive professional gladiator bouts with wild animals making a cameo here and there. This arena was active, we guess, around 200 AD when the Severan dynasty was ruling the Roman Empire. If betting on animal fights was your thing, you'd travel to this place. Hope you have trail shoes and great knees. I'm weak just looking at those hills. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Valley of the Kings. We started off this list in ancient Egypt, so we might as well finish there. After all, when it comes to ancient mysteries or ancient curses, Egypt still has so much to offer. It is said that any thieves who dare enter or disturb the slumber of the deceased kings shall be cursed and shall perish. Well, this applies to archaeologists too. Howard Carter and his team back in the 1920s had come across the discovery of a lifetime, finding the tomb of King Tut, launching the study of Egyptology. We're still finding tombs in Egypt to this day. That place is a literal treasure chest. The thing is though, after the discovery, some researchers on Carter's team started to feel under the weather. Maybe there was a bug going around, maybe it was too hot, or maybe it was just the curse of the pharaohs. Some men on his team perished from blood diseases or undisclosed circumstances. Many of these ancient tombs have warnings, and I think it might be time we start listening to those.
Number 10, the Anguished Man. I don't care who you are, but every family out there has one artifact or one heirloom in their house that just doesn't sit well with you. Please comment below and let us know. I'm actually very curious to see what it is. For me, it was a dancing Halloween skull with moss and black roses coming out of its eyes, playing the classic funeral song. I don't know what you call it, but you know what I'm talking about. Speaking of funerals, that's probably where the Anguished Man came from. I'm just taking a guess. The Anguished Man is a painting of a man in anguish, or some sort of distress, and I'm not just saying this to be funny, but the painting is 100% bona fide scary. What's more unusual than that is that no one is sure of its origin or creator. The current owner of the painting says he got it from his grandmother, and the knowledge train stops there. No one knows where it came from. And seriously, look at it, it's scary, it's terrifying, I don't like it. I'm gonna walk off now, scared.
Number 9, the Goddess of Death statue. Well, that's quite the name. Okay, let's talk about it, shall we? For starters, it doesn't look like anything menacing, which makes the tale that much more convincing, if anything. It looks like one of those Crazy Bones. Remember Crazy Bones from the late 90s? So good. I had all of them. Put them in my mouth all the time, weirdly. It's like the sucked on some Crazy Bones. This cursed ancient statue from 3500 BC was unearthed at Lempa, Cyprus back in 1878. The limestone was dated quite a while back, and the statue, as far as origins go, is a complete mystery. But many historians believe that it was once a fertility statue, or it represented a goddess whose name has now been lost in time. The statue has gone through numerous families, with tragedy following closely behind. Hence the, curse aspect of this list. Lord Elephant had the statue for around 6 years, and during that time, all 7 of his family members bit the bullet. Second owner, Ivor Minucci, same thing, entire family just wiped out, this time only within 4 years. Lord Thompson Noel, entire family, also 4 years, and then finally the statue had belonged to the late Sir Alan Biverbrook and his family. And you can probably guess what happened within a few years.
Number 8, Cursed Amethyst. A beautiful purple amethyst stolen from India. Worth a fortune and would make an excellent addition to any jewelry collection. Trouble is, there may be something wrong with this gorgeous gem. Cursed, that is. The first gentleman to appropriate this gem quickly became ill afterwards and passed away. The gem was then given to his son, who also became ill and croaked. The gem kept passing hands as the story goes on, until it came to the possession of a man named Edward Heron Allen, who was so convinced of the gem's dark powers, he stored it in a bank vault and put it in 7 lockboxes, just to make sure. It's kind of like the babushka doll from hell. He also left strict instructions to take out the gem 33 years exactly to the day that he put it in, and a warning for anyone who dares possess such an item. It now sits in the Museum of Natural History. I'll keep my distance, thank you very much.
In our number 7 spot today, we have Highgate Cemetery. Heading over to England yet again, London's Highgate Cemetery is beautiful, but back in the early 1800s, it was booming. The city's population was growing, meaning more people were dying. We needed more land for bodies, graves were being placed in between houses and shops, so Parliament built 7 cemeteries to help out. The third, built in 1839, was Highgate. Come 1854, the cemetery was full. It was beautiful, everyone wanted to be buried there. An odd desire, but look at it. How inviting is that? It was so popular that they added another 20 acres. More bodies. Let's do it. No worries, keep piling them on. By the time World War II came along, the cemetery was completely abandoned. In 1960, the cemetery was officially closed, buildings began to fall onto themselves, the landscaping is just a mess. It certainly looks the part now. Today, many stories are passed around of these men in dark robes. They're said to practice dark rituals in Highgate. It's not uncommon to see apparitions in the cemetery, but red-eyed demons? Highgate is just another level. In our number 6 spot today, we have Newgrange Tomb. Okay, time to get wild. Over in Ireland, there's a tomb built by Egyptians. It's called Newgrange. It's as old as the pyramid, so the belief is that Egyptians also built this. It was first discovered back in the late 1700s, but it's been closed ever since. It's a mystery who or what is inside, but the folklore surrounding the tomb is too good not to include on this list. Locals believe the tomb is a gateway to another realm and that it was built by goblins. If and when this tomb is opened, it's believed goblins will come rushing out. Evil goblins, that is. I didn't know that there was another kind. Are there good goblins? Does that exist? I certainly hope that this doesn't happen. Maybe it's Alexander the Great, maybe they buried him impossibly out of the way, or maybe it is full of goblins. I simply just don't know. In our number 5 spot today, we have Bangor Fort. Back in the 16th century, King Maddo built the massive Bangor Fort in India. The population of this small town was around 1,000. It was a beautiful fort. Many considered this place a luxury. Rightfully Rightfully so though, it looks like a set piece from Game of Thrones. Legend has it that Princess Ratnavati, who at the time was living in the luxurious fort, was the talk of the town. Dudes were proposing left, right, and center. Princes from all over would come in and try to take her hand in marriage. One day when visiting town, a magician saw the princess shopping for perfumes, so he planned on using black magic on the princess. He mixed it with perfume that she was admiring, but it didn't work. The princess smashed the perfume, and as the bottle broke apart, the magician then cursed the entire fort and those living inside of it, which is really the only reasonable response, you weirdo. Only days later, a war erupted around the fort, and there were many casualties. To this day, Bangor Fort is said to be extremely haunted. And our number 4 spot today, we have the Crooked Forest. Forests are already creepy, but this one looks like it's straight out of a Tim Burton film. The Crooked Forest is in Poland. There's around 400 odd-shaped pine trees near the town of Gryfino. These trees are said to be about 90 years old, and all of the trees from the base, they immediately bend towards the north, and then they slowly curved back towards the sky like other trees. Despite this odd bend, these trees are otherwise healthy. There's been so many theories, but none of them really stick. Some suggest it was a gravitational anomaly, but that's a little too far-fetched for me. I don't know. This isn't Interstellar, is it? Other theories claim that there were heavy snowfalls that would weigh the branches down, which could check out, but why is it just a select amount? I've lived in Canada my entire life. I'm from the prairies, like the snowiest of all the places. We have so much snow, and I've never seen a Sleepy Hollow tree. Alright, my favorite theory is that farmers were trying to make the tree curved on purpose to make stronger wheels because the grain direction would make for the natural curved wheels. Again, nobody knows for sure. What are your thoughts? Do we like the wheel theory? I'm gonna keep a spare tree tire just in case. I'll keep it stored safely in the trunk.
Number 3. The Busby Stoop Chair. The Busby Stoop Chair comes from 1702, so right off the bat this legend kicked off only 10 years after the Salem witch trials. So take this one with a grain of salt, please. People made odd choices at this time. They kind of believed anything, women were witches, chairs were haunted. Welcome to 1702, I guess. Englishman Thomas Busby had some issues with his father-in-law. He didn't handle those issues well, and he had to be hanged for it. Yeah, you can't just kill people for no reason, Thomas. What is it, 1701? That's crazy. He was hanged near the Humble Inn, ironic name, but a chair that was nearby during said hanging is now said to hold the spirit of one Thomas Busby. So legend has it, if you sit on this chair or if you put your knee on it or whatever, you are set to die in a frightful accident. A frightful accident! Big check, could you imagine? You sat in that chair, now you're gonna your pants at work.
No!
That's it. God forbid you needed to tie your shoelace at the Humble Inn. The horrors! The horrors. So the chair was declared haunted. The chair was declared haunted. But did anything actually happen afterwards? Yeah, honestly. Sounds silly, but this was the real deal, I guess. Locals say during World War II, airmen from a nearby base came to the pub, and those who sat in the Busby chair have never returned. Again, could have had something to do with the war, but let's continue. Then in the late 70s, more accidents were connected, but they still kept the chair around until 1798. They're like, it's haunted, but it looks nice, It matches the wall. It stayed at the inn for that long, and then it was donated to the Thirsk Museum. So if you feel like checking out some haunted chairs, there you go, freaks.
Number 2. Capuchin Crypt. Hey, I get it. In the past, there were no home renovators. You couldn't walk into your favorite big box home renovation store and pick out some great additions for interior design. Well, some guys in Rome thought their church was a little underwhelming. They wanted something that made a statement, something bold, something macabre. The Church of Santa Maria in Rome, and it has a longer name, but it's not dyslexia friendly, so I'm not going to pronounce it, is a church that's decorated with skulls and bones arranged in tasteful art pieces, lining the walls and archways with bones that look like designs. And one room having some mummified monks and a wall full of skulls to comfort churchgoers. Oh god. I can just imagine what a room full of old bones smells like. Oh, no thank you. Oh, I'm gonna be sick. Oh.
And number 1, the Great Bed of Ware. Yeah, let's get nice and cozy for this last one. When putting this list together, Big Ched and I both agreed that haunted or not, this is a bed we would both have, for sure. It's massive, it's cozy, it caught our eye, it looks like a bed a king would sleep in, and rightfully so. The Great Bed of Ware was built for the royal family back in 1463. It was 12 feet by 12 feet, plenty of space to cut your toenails, whatever you want to do. Yeah, just brush them off. You got like 11 more feet to work with. You're good. It's a big bed. What a time. Jonas Fosbrook, a carpenter from the time, impressed King Edward IV with his work. The king gave him a pension for life all because of this bed. That's how good it was. Over time, the bed became property of the Lord of Ware Manor, a man named Thomas Fanshawe. People would travel all across the land to see this beauty. That's a fun family vacation. Hey, let's go see this bed. I heard it's a neat bed. Pack your stuff. Shakespeare mentioned it in the 12th Night. It was a big deal, but all those who stayed in the bed did not have a good night's rest. Rather, they woke up to scratches and bruises. It was horrible. That is, if they got enough sleep to begin with. People would wake up on the floor. Somehow they would roll out of a 12-foot bed. That's crazy. Today it can be found in the Victoria and Albert Museum, so if you want to go cuddle up, there you go. Kicking off our list at number 10. Israel Cursed Tomb. Here we go, right off the hop. A secret tomb was discovered in Israel only a month ago. Now this is the first time a tomb has been found at the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 65 years. Now the actual cave itself was discovered only a year ago, but these smaller chambers are being found recently, as like a month ago recently. And the tomb found came along with a message. Awesome, we love those. It vows to curse anybody who would open the grave, and this message is also written in blood red, so yeah. Can we not open this one, maybe? Last time we had a black sarcophagus in Egypt, people were sticking their heads in for no reason, just to see what's up. And then, you know, a plague happened. So, number 9, Polish King Curse. Some of you may remember this, or your parents might so ask them about this at dinner. Yeah, make it weird tonight. Ask them about a Polish king curse tonight while you're eating food. Back in 1973, a team of archaeologists were jazzed when they uncovered an ancient 15th century tomb. The tomb of the Polish king at the time, King Casimir IV Jagiellon. Now media was of course all over this discovery, as they should be, it was exciting. Now everyone was of course making jokes about a curse. You kinda have to, right? We're all thinking about it. What if there's a curse? I don't know. Open it though, still. Some team members involved ended up dying after the discovery. It was a little odd. There were a few who said it was due to a curse, but the sudden illnesses were in fact caused by deadly fungi inside the tomb. So it still was the tomb's fault, but it wasn't a curse per se. It was breathed in, and that's what led to these researchers' untimely death. Number 8, King Tut's Curse. Here we go. Since we're on the topic of illnesses or curses, let's go back 50 more years, shall we? To the legendary discovery of King Tut's tomb in 1922. This discovery is what made everyone, so paranoid when that Polish king curse came out, right? This discovery and what followed is the main reason we believe in mummy curses today. One member of the expedition, George Herbert, passed away suddenly 6 weeks after they opened King Tut's chamber. It was not toxic mold, it wasn't a curse, but rather it was a mosquito bite on the cheek. He got blood poisoning from a mosquito bite, that's all it was. I mean, I'm sure digging up bodies from the past and opening the tombs up doesn't help karma in general, but it wasn't a curse written in red. Not this time. Number 7, the baker's wedding dress. Why is it in so many horror films the ghost is always a lady floating around in a white wedding dress? Mix it up a little, I don't know. Maybe a bridesmaid's gown wouldn't hurt. Maybe something red, something a little pizzazz on it, I don't know. Been watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race. Throw some glitter on something, I don't know. They're always taken out before their wedding night, it seems. Or apparently they're taken out over a vase. Back in 1849 in the small town of Altoona, Pennsylvania, Elias Baker and his wife Hetty lived in the Baker mansion. They had 2 sons, 1 daughter, and a baker. Anna had fallen in love with one of her father's employees, another steel worker, but her father wouldn't allow the relationship to really, take off. Anna vowed to never marry again, and she locked herself in her room. When her father passed away in 1848, she went to go find her true love, but he had since settled down. So she spent the rest of her days behaving erratically, she was upset, rightfully so. Her father didn't let her have her true love, and now her soul still haunts that same wedding dress today. Not just the dress too, the mansion is haunted as well, and guests would report furniture and vases moving around all the time. That's not bad as far as hauntings go. If you ask me, moving couches? That'd be great. I have a bad back. I would love some help. Really, thank you. Anna, grab the side. Let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Number 6, the Crying Boy. Another painting, I know, but this one is extra creepy. So basically there's this very popular print of a painting. It's a boy, he's crying. Oh, I know, who would want that though, seriously. There's different versions of it, but originally done by Bruno Armilio. Well, we don't talk about Bruno because his painting had some serious creep factor going on. Besides the fact that it's a crying young man who's peering into the very depths of your soul, firefighters began to notice a pattern when putting out house fires. There's a connection here, hold on, stay tuned. No smoke alarms, leaving the stove unattended, and this painting were common. I wonder why, except the painting was never damaged in any of these fires. And after putting out a few houses, and the same painting keeps showing up and keeps surviving the said fires, That's strange. That's weird. As it turns out, the print had flame retardant chemicals in its production, thus protecting it. Maybe just don't bring it inside though.
Number 5. The Hope Diamond. Coming from the 1660s, this curse began when a gem dealer named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought this large diamond when visiting India. He bought it with his earned money, with his money, okay? Remember that. The origins of the diamond were unknown, but it didn't matter. This beauty was just sitting there and he had to throw all the cash at it. He had to buy it with all of his money. For sure, the money that he had. Well, later on, after Tavernier got the diamond, rumors spread throughout Europe and the United States that he actually stole the diamond from the statue of a Hindu goddess. He didn't actually buy it. Yeah, a little different than his story. Sadly, more believable too. The newspapers actually kicked this one off by publishing the Hope Diamond as an ancient curse. The diamond at one point ended up in the hands of King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. Well, if you don't know about them, they lost their, they died. They lost their lives during the French Revolution, let's just say that. The old guillotine dream team. The stone then went to Lord Francis Hope come 1839. By that point, it was deemed cursed for real, hence the Hope Diamond name. They ended up selling the diamond shortly after being reduced to poverty, and then Evelyn Walsh McLean bought the stone in 1912. Shortly after, her son was killed in a car accident, and when the stone was delivered to its final and current home, the Smithsonian, back in 1958, the driver delivering the package was later hit by a truck. He survived, but shortly after this, his house caught fire. Moral of the story, you don't need diamonds, for more reasons than one.
Number 4, crude oil. Before anyone jumps all over me and says, but Chetty, I love crude oil because it provides jobs and economy. That's true, you're right, and there's probably going to be someone else saying that without crude oil and gasoline, how can they keep up their lifestyle? I need gas for my sedan, pickup truck, SUV, RV, dirt bike, quad bike, go-kart, speedboat, my John Deere, lawn equipment. All this is true, and as a big dude, I appreciate the automobile just as much as the next guy. I ain't walking. However, one cannot deny the amount of trouble oil has caused folks in the last 100 years. Name a place with oil and there's probably someone foaming at the mouth trying to get their hands on it. You can go either way on this one really. All I know is that I'm not the emperor of an evil empire looking for oil. Or am I?
Number 3, message from Egyptian afterlife. We're all curious what happens after you die, of course, but nobody celebrated the end of your days like ancient Egyptians did, right? It's beautiful. Like I've mentioned before on this channel, they would have these fake painted doors. They would leave valuables. Any new tomb that we discover provides more hints as to what lies beyond, right? An ancient necropolis was discovered only a few years ago, again in Egypt. It contains dozens of coffins and a necklace that holds a message from the afterlife. Okay, now we're talking. This site is around 2,000 years old, and they're in the process of excavating it as we speak, / as I mansplain to you about these tombs. But so far the tombs and artifacts found, officials think, belong to an ancient priestess. A message from the afterlife is pretty spectacular, but what does it say exactly? Well, we're still waiting to find out. These things take time, you know? Number 2, mythical carvings. Back in 2014, a 1700-year-old cemetery was discovered along the Silk Road, which are these ancient highways connecting China and the Roman Empire. Now in the city of Kucha, now in northwest China, the cemetery was found along with 10 ancient tombs, one of which was referred to as M3. M3 didn't have any haunting messages this time around, but it did contain several carvings of mythical creatures. Creatures that were once alive? There's the white tiger of the west, the black turtle of the north, the vermilion bird of the south, so far so lovely, and then there's the azure dragon of the east, a little bigger, a little bit more mighty. These mythical carvings represent different seasons and the heavens, but could the other 6 carvings mean depictions of hell? Probably, possibly. And finally, number 1, the Ring of Sekenianis. One ring to rule them all. And by rule, I mean curse you and your entire family. Don't touch this. This is why you don't steal from ancient tombs. Has to be number 1. This 12-gram gold ring, for starters, looks beautiful. And secondly, it's massive. Its diameter was 25 millimeters, so unless you were wearing some sort of infinity gauntlet, she's probably gonna fall off your little Jack Skellington fingers, you know what I mean? The ring had first been found in 1785. A farmer was plowing a field in Silchester Village, a village west of London known for its grim history, because in 45 AD, ancient Romans invaded that site, and come the 7th century, it was completely abandoned. And probably pretty cursed. The ring was mighty and even had an inscription on it, a Latin inscription, of course. It read, Senequian vivas indium. And when 1929 rolled around, new details surfaced, or resurfaced rather. The data from the ring matched an excavation that was done in the early 1900s less than 100 miles away, in a place called Lydney. That's where this ring is from. At the same site, however, a tablet was found recalling the Celtic god of healing and hunting, and how his favorite ring, got stolen. I'm connecting some stories here. Uh-oh, I may have stolen something I shouldn't have. If this rings a bell, yes, Lord of the Rings was inspired by this exact legend. The tablet also says, may he who bears the name of Senekianus not have health until he brings the ring back to the Temple of Nodens. Yeah, let's get that ring back ASAP, Rocky. That would be great. I'll be a lot quicker than Lord of the Rings. I'll be a lot quicker than 3 movies. I'll tell you that. Where's this temple? I'll put in my Uber right now. I'm on my way.